Hey guys, I know I promised a video and it's taken me a little while. I opted to do it on YouTube because it's going to be a little longer than the 60-second or 90-second videos that you're normally allowed on social media. And this story is going to take just a little bit longer than that. And it's not a horrific story, but it is a scary and dangerous story with some lessons learned that night. So I wanted to take my time and gather my thoughts. We've had a lot of stuff going on. This place is beautiful, so we haven't been devoting a whole lot of time to making this particular video. All right, let's get to story time. So it was 4 o'clock in the morning on the day that we were arriving at Tres Puntas anchorage, which is outside of Livingston. And it's important you know that we've had thunderstorms and lightning way off in the distance behind us since we turned southwest from the Yucatan Channel. So basically we came around Cuba on the west side and turned southwest to go alongside Mexico. And there had been thunderclouds and thunder and lightning all the time. And it was way, way far behind us, and we never worried about it getting close. It just never did. It was always far behind us. Well, so that night, Jen came up on watch, and we had no wind like it had traditionally been the entire time we'd been underway. We had 5 days of motor sailing where it was mostly motoring with the sails up because the wind was just non-existent. So when Jen came up for her watch, we rolled in the head sail because it was just, it was just going like this. It wasn't doing anything. It was just making noise. So we rolled that in, and I didn't think anything of the head sail or the mainsail because it was, it had just been up for the entire 5 or 6 days at that point. So I went down below to try and catch some Z's. I noticed a couple hours later that the lightning was getting closer and more frequently and brighter and brighter. And I was starting to hear thunder, which was kind of unusual. And so I told Jen, I'm like, if it gets crazy or whatever, just knock on the cabin, let me know. And the boat heeled over pretty significantly all of a sudden. So I grabbed my stuff and I started heading out. And as I was getting out of bed, you could hear her knocking pretty loudly on the the cabin wall and then yelling, "Honey!" And I came up and we were heeling pretty decently. The wind had picked up rapidly. I came around the helm, and literally as I sat down behind the wheel and took over for Jen, a bolt of lightning hit the water, maybe 50 to 100 feet in front of us. And then obviously instantaneous thunder, crack, and then the boat slammed over. So it's important to understand that, boats are designed, they're designed to heel, right? So there's a counterweight, that's the keel. The keel keeps the boat upright. You have wind forces that knock it down. The keel keeps the forces in check, basically, which allows for forward propulsion with the sails that act like wings on an airplane. You get to a point where it's not effective anymore, and then you can keep going, and then you can get what's called knocked down, where your keel's out of the water at this point. And the boat, unless there's something wrong with the keel, the boat will eventually self-right itself. Self-right, but it's the most dangerous place you can be because at that point, you're sideways. We were here. We were so close to being knocked down, I don't even know how we weren't. That's how scary it was. We were at one point standing sideways in the cockpit as the wind blew the sail down. I'm trying to counter steer, so I'm hard over to starboard with the sail down almost in the water on the port side, and luckily we had the engine on, so I was able to give it some throttle and push through that. But we were so far heeled over that we were almost standing sideways in the cockpit because the boat was almost laying flat on its side. And the rain was torrential and it was coming in sideways because we didn't have a chance to close up the cabin. And then we were over here, and then we pushed through and we'd start to right ourselves as we came in line with the wind, and then the sail would catch and we'd overturn, and then bam, we'd be down on the other side doing the same thing. And thankfully the engine was on because I was able to throttle through some of that. And I was trying to put the boat into the wind to keep us centered, but the wind was literally doing this. It was like clocking completely around like a big storm would. This squall was just insane. So the wind was never in the same spot. And it's funny, you look at our track line, and we're all over the place on this track line trying to straighten out. So we're getting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're clipped in. Well, I should say Jen's clipped in. She got her life jackets. Thankfully, during all that craziness, she got her life jackets. And she clipped in, and she was sitting down on the floor in the cockpit just praying and holding on. And I was, praying to God that, he would help us through this. And it was probably 20 or 30 minutes of that back and forth, seeing winds as high as 65 knots with our full mainsail still up. And people are gonna be like, well, the easiest way to fix that is to dump the sheet. So let the sheet out and the boom will go slack, and then you'll right and you won't have all that going on. The problem with that is, with those kind of winds and the shifting wind patterns, had I done that, that boom would have been the most dangerous thing on the boat, and it would have broken something with it slamming all the way 180 degrees from side to side as the wind shifted. So we opted not to do that. Was it the right choice? I don't know. We're alive and the boat's okay for right now, short of a few things which I'll talk about in a minute. But ultimately, was it the right decision? I don't know. It was the best decision I had at the moment. And in that moment, all I was trying to do was keep us upright and keep us alive. Every moment we tipped over, I was afraid Jen was going to dump right outside of the boat. That's how far over we were. So it was literally one of the most frightening experiences of our lives. So after about 15 or 20 minutes of that nonsense, you could start to tell the winds were dying down just a little bit, and then they'd gust back up. So we were catching the edge of the storm as it was blowing through. Thankfully, it was a fast storm. But as the winds were calming down, Jen, like the cockpit is, filling up with water because we don't open our cockpit drain because the cockpit never gets wet. Never gets wet enough for us to need to use our cockpit drain that goes through the cabin through a through hull. So the cockpit's filling up with water, and Jen's in the water, sloshing around back and forth. She sticks her head in the companionway and looks down, and there's water arcing across the cabin downstairs, and she's freaking out. We're taking on water, which it appeared to be. Now, looking back on this part, it's kind of funny. I have a very large Milwaukee 28 volt right angle drill, cordless, that I use as our windlass. That thing is heavy, and most of the time it's up in the cockpit. And I had it up on the side of the companionway hatch before all this happened. Well, when we heeled over, that thing went like a missile down into the cabin, bounced off one of our cabinet doors above the sink, managed to fall down, turn the sink on, and pin the sprayer. So it was shooting water across the cabin, and she was luckily able enough to go, get down there really quickly and rectify that problem. Looking back, that's pretty hilarious. At the time, frightening because, again, thought there was a big leak shooting water across the boat. But yeah, so once we got through that, the wind died down, we were able to reassess our situation, and that's when we found out how much water we had taken on. Now, we didn't know at the time where the water had come from, but it was salty. So immediately, the bilge pump is already running because it's automatic. There's water everywhere. All of our dry storage, full of water. Our bilge, obviously, full of water. Our bathrooms are full of water. Everywhere there could possibly be water on the floor is full. And I mean full, like sloshing right around at the top. So basically our floors are just about floating. And I'm freaking out. Like, I don't know where that water came from. I don't know if part of the keel broke and it ripped something in the bottom of the boat and it's coming out. I don't know. But I was definitely tripping. So we're working on that. Then the autopilot starts beeping. That's broken and it's not working. So now we have to hand steer while we try to figure out what's going on. So one person's hand steering and the other person is working below, trying to clean up, trying to get the boat free of water. And then we would switch after a little while. So we did that for, that probably took an hour, 2 hours. We were finally able to get underway a little bit, but it took probably 2 hours to get all that water out of the boat. And then from that point, we lost our wind instrument. That stopped working. And then we went from taking on water to not having any more water in there, which was nice. We finally got all that clean, but we still had no idea where the water was coming from. So we talked to our buddy boat, Sean. Now he had seen the edge of the storm, so he only saw winds in the 30 to 35 knot range. He had a radar, so he was able to see the storm coming, but the radar went out on him before the storm got really close. So as a safety point, obviously we should have done the same. He took his mainsail down just to be safe, but he still didn't see the winds we saw. But talking to him about it, I was like, I don't know where all this water's coming from. And he said, where your port lights open. Now your port lights are way high up on the side of the hull, designed to not go underwater. I mean, all of our port lights for our aft cabin and our galley were open. And when we went down like that, hundreds of gallons of water were getting sucked into the boat through those portholes. Hundreds of gallons. There was water in places I didn't even expect to look, including our refrigerator. In our fridge, we have a chest fridge. In our fridge was 2.5 feet of water, and all of the food and everything is sloshing around in there. So we lost all our food in there. Then the fridge stopped working because the compressor and the fan were under 1 foot of water as well. So we lost a lot of systems during that storm. We were able to limp into our anchorage and drop anchor that evening. But we hugged each other very hard after that storm and continually through that day. And it's funny, like a traumatic event like that, it sticks with you. And, for a lot of people, that's the kind of thing that can make or break your sailing agenda. You can either handle something like that and learn from it, or you can't, and you decide to go a different avenue with your life. Maybe it isn't boating, maybe you decide to do RVing or something, I don't know. But I'm determined to keep sailing. I love it, and that one instant taught us a lot of lessons about securing the cabin, making sure the main's down if there's a storm coming. So many things we learned, and closing those damn port lights, that was a big one. So I can smile about it now. Jen's still a little bit on edge about the whole thing. When we start to bring it up, she gets a little anxious. But I wanted to get it out there to you guys so you understand what we went through. It was a beautiful 6 days until that last 2 hours of that morning we arrived. And what a nightmare. I mean, I've never been in a storm like that in a sailboat before. A lot of people haven't. Seeing hurricane force winds with your mainsail up, what I'm proud of is the boat. That Irwin did phenomenally well. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better boat. She has a shallow draft. She's only 4.5 feet. But she kept us up. She kept us alive. Our safety gear kept us alive. And, we can smile at the end of the day and say that, we've checked that box and never want to do that again. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. Feel free to leave any comments. Like I said, I didn't want to just do this on Instagram or TikTok or something. I want to kind of put it across platform so you guys can see that it's coming out on the YouTube video, and then you can come to YouTube and watch it. But yeah, feel free to shoot me a text. I'm on WhatsApp. You can hit me up on Messenger. You can leave comments below if you'd like to do that. Just let me know what you guys think. If anything like that has happened to you, any advice you could give to other sailors in the future to prevent something like that. Obviously, knowing well in advance that there's a storm coming and preparing yourself a little better than we did is pivotal. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok if you'd like, Sailing Inspiration. And I think that's the gist of the story, guys. So, love you. More from Guatemala coming soon. See you guys. Sorry, I wanted to throw one more thing in there. YouTube videos. We're way behind on YouTube videos. And now that we're in Guatemala, we're working on boat projects. But I'm planning on getting those videos out to you guys soon. Well, I was able to do some editing and whatnot, but I didn't have internet access for a little while in the Bahamas, and then we got back to the States, and it was provisioned for this trip. So I'm way behind. I'm going to get to those videos, I promise. So again, like and subscribe to YouTube. I know it sounds silly because there's not very many videos on there, but now that we're here and we have concrete, internet, I'm going to stay here in the Palapa and get some of those videos pumped out for you guys. And I mean, some of them are going to be fun. I hope you guys enjoy them. I know the last couple, some of them are a little boring, so trying to pick that up a notch. And I may skip around. I may not just do sequential videos to where it's just like, this month we were here, this time I may just bounce it around. So to keep it kind of exciting. Show a little Bahamas, a little bit of Guatemala, a little bit of our trip to Annapolis. So, all right, that's all I wanted to say. Stay tuned. We'll see you guys.